everyone, Nicholson here, and welcome to Coming Soon Movie News with Nicholson. I'm your host, and on this show we're going to be breaking down all of the day's movie news and kind of giving a little bit of background into what it all means for the production in general, such as casting decisions, trailer announcements, things like that. So without any further ado, let's get into today's hot topic. So the first topic of the day is they've finally released the trailer for Frank Miller and Robert Rodriguez's Sin City: A Dame to Kill For. If you've watched any of my previous shows, you know how much I am looking forward to this movie. And I gotta tell you, after watching this trailer, I put a link in the description so you guys can go and watch it yourself as well. Awesome. Just plain awesome. It was everything that I wanted the trailer to be. It included certain aspects of the movie that I was hoping that they were keeping in line with the original. I mean, mainly, it kind of came as no surprise, but mainly the artistic notion of the movie. They weren't really trying to upgrade it in any way. They weren't trying, at least from what we've seen in the trailer, they weren't trying anything revolutionary. They weren't really trying to change what they'd already done. It just looks like they've kept the same feel, the same hyper stylized noir aspect of the original, but this time it looks like they have amped up the action. One of the main differences with this movie visually when you go and see it is that it has been shot and has been designed since its inception for 3D, whereas the original one wasn't. 3D wasn't around at that time. So that's going to be one of the only artistic things that I can see that'll be different from this. But I mean, looking at the dialogue that's stated in the trailer, the way that the shots are compromised, the hard contrast shots where it's a white silhouette of somebody with a black background, key things from the original movie, and they've kept them in this, and I'm so happy about that. But also all of the returning cast members from the original. One thing. A Dame to Kill For is the title of one of the most famous Sin City novels, the graphic novels. But this movie is actually going to be comprised of 4 separate stories. Two of them are based on the comics, or on the graphic novels, and 2 of them are original stories. So the main storyline is A Dame to Kill For. The second one, which if you watch the trailer, the very first line in the trailer is actually the name of it. It's called Just Another Saturday Night, and that one deals with Marv. That one apparently, if I remember correctly, that one is set at the same time that Bruce Willis's character in the original one and Nancy go after that yellow bastard. When Nancy was played by Jessica Alba, who is returning. Both Bruce Willis and Jessica Alba are returning, as well as Rosario Dawson. We have Jamie King coming back as the twins. Mickey Rourke is back as Marv. And he doesn't look like he has changed at all. He looks like he's been wearing the makeup the entire time. So really excited about this movie. I love the direction, the visual styles that they're going for. A couple of things are a little different, though, and some of these things apparently will be dealt with in the movie. The first one being the character of Dwight from the original Sin City movie, who was played by Clive Owen, is now being played by Josh Brolin. And apparently there's something in the movie which causes this. They explain it in the movie as to why he will look different. This, of course, is apparently set before the events of Sin City, the original movie from 2005. So that's one of the reasons why certain characters are returning, even though if you've seen the 2005 movie, you know that they did die. So the 2 original stories are what intrigues me. One of them is based around the character of Johnny, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and he is a high-stakes gambler who he's hiding his real mission that he's doing by pretending to be this high-stakes gambler and getting into a lot of trouble, and he's going after somebody. We still don't know exactly who that's going to be, but that's going to be a really interesting storyline to watch. And if they follow the same pattern that the original one did, where the movie was about an hour and 40 minutes or so. So essentially each segment was broken down to about a half an hour. With this one having 4 options or 4 stories to choose from, I don't know if they're going to increase the time length to 2 hours to still give them their half an hour, or if A Dame to Kill For is going to be the prominent storyline and the other ones are just going to be little snippets. We still don't know that yet. This is the first footage we're seeing from the movie, but I'm really surprised that it's taken them this long to release a trailer. I mean, the movie was originally supposed to come out in October of 2013, and they delayed it by almost a year. It's now coming out on August 22nd. But the visuals look amazing. Jessica Alba looks absolutely stunning. I think this is the most beautiful she's ever looked in a movie. I mean, especially that the one main intro shot of her in the middle of the trailer. I mean, looks like she's going to have a larger role than she did in the original one, which would be really great. I know that she is going to be a part of two of the four storylines. Um, but I mean, just nothing else can be said about that. I was kind of worried because she's been out of acting for a little bit that she wasn't going to have the right look for the role anymore. But nope, she came out. She looks absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. So cannot wait to see this movie. One big change, and this actually happened because of circumstances that happened in real life, but Dennis Haysbert, who most people will remember, he played President Palmer on the Fox TV show 24. He has replaced actor Michael Clark Duncan in the role of Minutu, or I believe that's it's something similar to that. But he had to replace him due to Michael Clark Duncan's untimely death back in the late 2012. So it is unfortunate that we won't be able to see Michael Clark Duncan return to this, or any role for that matter. He was a phenomenal actor, but Dennis Haysbert is definitely a worthy advocate of that role. So it'd be really cool to see him play around with that role. You do get a brief shot of him in the trailer with his gold eye. So that'll be really cool. But the one surprise, I didn't even know he was in this movie. It may have been announced a while ago and I just missed it. But Christopher Lloyd, Doc Brown himself, actually shows up in the trailer. He is in this movie, and I have no idea what character he plays. He's involved in from what I could tell from the trailer, he's involved in the Johnny storyline, the Joseph Gordon-Levitt storyline, one of the brand new ones. So I'm excited to see him play around in this world. That's one thing that I really like about this, because it's hyper stylized, it's out there, it's really graphic, but it's very fun. It's literally a comic book come to life. And so seeing these actors get to play around in this world and really get to delve deeply into their characters is just, it's awesome. And you get to see other characters like Jeremy Piven, from Entourage, will be replacing Michael Madsen as the character of Bob, who was Bruce Willis's character's partner. So it'd be interesting to see those two play off one another, because I liked Michael Madsen's character in the first one. I thought he was a little campy, and you can tell that when he's delivering his lines. He's a good friend of the director, Robert Rodriguez, so of course he was going to be in the movie. But with Jeremy Piven is, in my opinion, he is a much better actor than Michael Madsen. I do believe that a lot of people would share that opinion, but again, that is just my opinion. But I do feel that he is going to definitely bring it a step up, depending on how big his role is. There are still a lot of roles that we still don't know what's going to happen with them, or how big they're going to be, how small they're going to be. A lot of little characters from the original one have shown up in this trailer as well, so they are returning. It's just really great to see that continuity, to see that there are things that are linking the movies together. These storylines are the same, and the fact that the actors are willing to come back and participate is really cool. So I'm really looking forward to this. This was just the first teaser trailer. It's only about a minute and a half, so we are going to be getting another full-length trailer sometime before the film's release. Because it comes out in August, I'm going to assume that trailer is going to be out sometime in June. Probably be end of May, beginning of June. They may even push it to July, but I don't know if they would wait that long. But we will be getting another trailer, most likely before the release of the film. So really looking forward to it. So far what we've seen, though, awesome. Awesome. Cannot wait for this movie. Next topic today is producer Matthew Vaughn. Most people may not recognize his name, but he was the director of Kick-Ass, the original Kick-Ass from a couple of years ago, not the sequel. And he also directed X-Men First Class, the one that was set back in the 60s. So he's got a lot of clout when it comes to these comic book movies and stuff like that. And he is now signed on to be a producer on the upcoming Fantastic Four reboot. He's come out and has some pretty strong words about the production. I think he's, judging by the tone that he said these in, I think he's irritated at the fact that the previous two Fantastic Four movies were even made, and that they took that type of they made that kind of a feel of the movie. They made it more campy, more comedy-oriented, kind of slapstick. And he's come out and said that this is not a comedy. It's not Stretchy Guy. It's not a guy in a rock running around that makes it look like it's made of polyester or polystyrene. So he's the one quote or one comment out of that you can make is it's not about Stretchy Guy. Mr. Fantastic only has the ability to stretch himself. He can essentially flatten out his entire body right down to the molecule, right down to an atom. So if he's not stretchy guy, now by that do they mean that he's not going to be, at a club and stretching his arms out to wrap his hands around beautiful women and bring them closer like he did in the Fantastic Four movies? As long as they don't do that, then I'm happy. I enjoyed the original Fantastic Four movies for what they were. They were dumb, silly comedies with some action sequences in it. The first one definitely needed more action. Anyone who hasn't seen the director's cut of the original Fantastic Four needs to watch it, because it is definitely an improvement over the movie that was released for the masses. Not a lot of an improvement, but it is definitely an improvement. It brings out a few additional scenes. One scene that I actually picked up on the first time that I watched it was, there's a sequence when Johnny Storm, played in the movie by Chris Evans, is getting upset, and he's leaving the Baxter Building, and his sister, played by Jessica Alba in that movie, Sue Storm, she stops him and talks to him about something, but he's wearing he's wearing like a long sleeve T-shirt or something. But the next time that you see him, where he's still out and about walking around, he's not wearing what he was wearing. He's wearing something different, and I picked up on that. It was just a little thing. It didn't really take me out of the movie. I just thought, oh, that's weird. But when you watch the director's cut, you understand why that happened. There was actually a scene which took place at a bar, where Johnny Storm was trying to be, because he feels that people are going to love seeing him. They're going to love seeing his powers and what he can do. So he goes out and he tries to just show off, and he goes to a bar, and people are filling up their drink glasses, and they're throwing them up in the air, and he's lighting them all on fire. But then something goes wrong, and if I remember correctly, I believe that he tries to blow up a glass, but it blows up too much, and people start to get freaked out, and they run away from him, and they start to get scared, and he starts to realize exactly why everyone else was starting to, or was trying to tell him the things that they were telling him, like, you can't go public, you can't show off your powers, and things like that. So that scene, I felt, should have been included in the movie. I understand why they took it out. It did slow down the pacing of the movie a bit, because it was a slightly longer scene. It was about 6 or 7 minutes. So I understand why they took it out, but with Matthew Vaughn coming out making these comments that the Fantastic Four reboot is not going to be a comedy, that does instill me with a little bit of hope for this project. After seeing the cast, some of the rumblings about what the plot may be involving, where it's Reed Richards and Ben Grimm, who are friends who join the military, or join the Air Force, I believe, or the military, and they get introduced to cosmic rays, or they get introduced to something which gives them their powers. And then they run into Johnny Storm and Sue Storm, who were apparently born with these capabilities. So I hope they don't go that route, because that's why call it Fantastic Four. You might as well call it something else. You're completely stripping away everything the Fantastic Four are known about. Setting aside the fact that they've cast an African-American actor and a Caucasian actress as blood siblings, there's a lot of core factors to these characters, and if you're going to change them this much, you might as well just call it something different. You're only going to be doing name recognition. It's like what they did with World War Z. If anyone out there who's seen World War Z and also read the book knows what I'm talking about, because the book is several stories told by different people about their interactions in this world. And then the movie took a character, Brad Pitt's character, and followed a narrative with him throughout the movie. So the only thing it kept was the title. Everything else was changed. So I feel that they may be going in that route with this movie. I do have hope because of the director, Josh Trank. He did direct Chronicle, which is one of my favorite superhero movies ever made, and he made it for like $5 million, which is a minuscule. It's almost a micro-budget film. It's funny to think of $5 million as being called micro-budget, but that's the age we live in. So I don't know how I feel about this. Matthew Vaughn has been very stingent when it comes to the press. He doesn't like talking to the press, so when you hear things like this, it could also be snarkiness to the press that he's talking to. But he did say that he'll have a very different tone than the previous two, which is good. I just hope they don't remove the core aspects of the characters. But it's going to take some time to see, because the movie doesn't come out until next March. So looking forward to it. Right now I am optimistic. I am going to give it the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to wait to see more about it. But as it stands right now, I'm a little hesitant on this project, and I have been ever since the cast was announced. It was rumored for a while, but once that cast was officially announced, the hairs on the back of my neck started to stand up. And I'm worried about this project because they're throwing a lot of money at this project, but they're also using this to set up a brand new cinematic universe. And if they get it wrong, that puts them in a bind because they are working on a plan. They have an outline for what they want this franchise to be offering. So when you look at Fantastic Four and then possibly doing Fantastic Four 2, and then also having a standalone X-Men film with the First Class cast again, and then crossing them over. We know that that is where they are intending to go. They do want to have a crossover with the X-Men in this franchise. So if they blow this one, that really puts a damper on the possibilities of seeing this franchise explode to what they would like it to be. And I would love to see the X-Men and Fantastic Four mash up on screen together and go and fight somebody. I think that would be one of the most visually stunning things that we've seen outside of the Avengers, and I think it might even have the possibility of topping the Avengers, considering the characters that are involved. Whether or not they get the right people involved is another story. So we're going to have to wait and see, but as it stands right now, I am still looking forward to it. I will give it the benefit of the doubt, but this has me a little bit worried. So we're going to have to wait and see. We're just going to have to wait and see. So our next piece of news, this was actually really exciting. I've been hoping that they were going to announce this for a while because I love this video game, but the PlayStation 3 exclusive video game The Last of Us from Naughty Dog is being brought to the big screen. They're going to be making a live-action feature film based on the game. The game is set in a world that has basically been destroyed by a viral pandemic, and it's set 20 years after that pandemic has stretched across the globe, has killed the majority of people on the planet, or at least turned them into these sort of, I don't really know how to describe them, they're like plant zombies essentially. They have these sort of crustacean type things growing out of their heads and out of parts of their bodies, but they're essentially zombies. So I don't really know how to classify them, but they're essentially infected people. That's how they call them in the movie. They're infected, or in the game, sorry. But the whole game is set between these two characters named Joel and Ellie. Joel is mid-30s, maybe early 30s man, and Ellie is a teenage girl. And she, if I remember correctly, she was actually infected, but she's not showing any signs of changing. And she was infected a couple of weeks before they found her. Whereas most people, if they get infected, within a few hours, they change. So he is basically asked to escort her across the country to what they feel is a lab where they can study her to see exactly why she's immune to this and possibly try to find a cure. And so the whole game is a survival horror type game, very similar to what the Resident Evil games used to be like, but this is taken on so much more of a broader level. The game elevated everything that games were about. The cinematic access of the game, being able to feel like you're in a movie. I felt like it's the same company that made the Uncharted games, and they've been trying to make Uncharted into a movie for a while. So the same company who did that did The Last of Us, and now they're going to be working on a movie. And one of the great things about it, because the game was so good, the creative director of the game, whose name is Neil Druckmann, has actually been asked to pen the screenplay. So the guy who was in charge of making sure that the game was what it was when it was released is now going to be in charge of writing the script. And Sam Raimi, the director of the previous Spider-Man films, Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, has come on as producer. So there's a lot of great talent involved with this, but the last time that Sam Raimi was involved in a video game movie was BioShock, and we still haven't seen that yet. That was a long time. He was on that movie for a long time. I'm talking 4 or 5 years, long time. I think he signed on to that movie either just before or just after Spider-Man 3 came out. And nothing's happened with that. I don't know if he's still officially attached or not, but it'll be, I'm cool to see this this vision of this movie, especially with Sam Raimi involved, because he really does have a visionary eye for this kind of stuff. So it'll be cool to see. I love the game, love the storyline. It's one of my favorites. So I've been looking forward to this movie coming to the big screen. But just bring us Uncharted already. I want to see Uncharted and Last of Us. It's from the same company. It'd be great to see them, once they do Last of Us, if it succeeds, to do an Uncharted movie and actually get it right. Because the rumblings of the movie that they were going to do a couple of years ago was not right at all. Mark Wahlberg starring in the movie with Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci, and it being like a family caper. Again, it was, they're using the name, and that's it. That's the only comparison between the two properties. This, on the other hand, I have very high hopes for, because they have the same creative, the creative people involved in the game are now going to be involved in the movie. which that has high hopes for me. And that's also what they're doing with the Assassin's Creed movie that they're doing, which is supposed to come out next year, starring Michael Fassbender. So that one's going to be really cool. But the people who are involved in the game are involved in making the movie. And when that happens, there's going to be a streamline within that project. It's not going to be, well, we've got this worked well in the game, but I don't know if it'll work well in the movie. The people who are involved in the game will know whether or not that is a core aspect of that story. And if it's not, they don't need it. If it's visually stunning or visually appealing, they may keep it. If it works well within the story that they're trying to tell, then they will keep it. But if not, they don't need to. A movie takes place over the course of about 2 hours on average. A video game, normally the playing hours are between 20 and 40 hours. Like it usually can take you between a week and 2 weeks to beat a game, depending on how much you play it. So the amount of content they need to create for the games is a lot more. They don't need to do as much stuff for the movie. They just need to get the core aspects of it and maintain those. So if they can do that, then this movie is going to be awesome, and I cannot wait. It's in the right hands as it stands right now. It's in the right hands. They don't have a release date or even an idea. The movie itself hasn't even been greenlit yet officially. They haven't given a budget. They don't have a director on yet. So it's been announced that they're going to try to do it. They're going to write a screenplay and then go from there. So hopefully we'll get some more information from this in the near future, and when we do, I will be updating it on the show. And our last bit of movie news today is actually director Antoine Fuqua, who has directed such movies as Olympus Has Fallen and Law-Abiding Citizen. He has signed on to direct a new movie called Southpaw, which is being written by Kurt Sutter. Kurt Sutter, for those of you who don't know, is the writer and creator of Sons of Anarchy, one of my favorite shows, as you can see. This movie has a really cool history. Southpaw was originally envisioned, maybe not envisioned, but for a long time it was being shepherded to be a starring vehicle for Eminem. Eminem looked at this as being a great follow-up story to 8 Mile for him to tell another story. He felt that what the character himself was going through was similar to what Eminem had been going through in his real life. So he felt that was a great kind of follow-up to 8 Mile, which again at the time was a movie kind of set around his life. So Southpaw could have been doing that, but instead of it being music, it would have been boxing. And so that is no longer happening. Eminem is no longer involved with the project, although he may still be on as a producer. I'm not entirely sure yet. But it will be starring Jake Gyllenhaal. Jake Gyllenhaal signed on to take over the role that Eminem was going to be looking at. But it's essentially about a man who he's a welterweight champion in boxing, and as his fame rises and as his career really takes off, the exact opposite happens in his personal life. And so it's going to be really, really great to see these two sides of him really conflicting. And there is one other main character who still needs to be cast. And if I read correctly, he was an on-the-rise boxer who lost an eye and became a trainer. And I believe he actually goes in and starts training the character that Jake Gyllenhaal will be playing. So this has a lot of promise, especially someone like Antoine Fuqua signing on to direct. He's got a great track record so far. He's currently prepping. He's currently working on another film right now, and then he's going to be working on the sequel to Olympus Has Fallen called London Has Fallen. And we know that the main 3 leads are going to be back. Gerard Butler, Aaron Eckhart, and Morgan Freeman are all signed on to do the follow-up London Has Fallen. I don't believe they have a release date yet for that movie, but I loved Olympus Has Fallen. I thought it was a lot more entertaining than I thought it was going to be. The action in the movie, even though it was a little over the top and a little outrageous, I still was enjoyed by it. You can't try to take a realistic approach to something like that, because then it becomes too real. Especially dealing with something like the White House. We've already dealt with 9/11. We've already dealt with all those situations, and so seeing something like that is very real. And I don't think you can take a realistic approach to that, and that's one of the reasons why they made it kind of fantastical. They made it over the top. You have like an army of Korean soldiers basically storming the White House. It was just a fun sequence. The whole movie in general was fun, so I hope they bring that level of vanity to the new project, the levity, if you will, that they had in the original. I hope they bring that to the sequel and not try to take themselves too seriously, because that's what really worked with the original, was they didn't take themselves too seriously. So with him signing on to do that, we may be still a little bit off on Southpaw because he's currently finishing up a film right now, and then he's going to be working on London Has Fallen. That'll probably take him about a year and a half to do, and then he'll move to Southpaw. So we're not going to know any more information about this for a little bit. So, but when we do, I will update on the show. But it is an intriguing project, and I like the fact that Jake Gyllenhaal is coming back into more movies. I feel like, with the exception of one, maybe a year, he doesn't show up in a lot, and he's a very underrated actor. I think that if he got the right starting vehicle, he would blow up, and you'd start seeing him everywhere. So I'm hoping so. He was fantastic in Prisoners. If anyone hasn't seen the movie Prisoners with him and Hugh Jackman, you need to check it out. It's a haunting film. It deals with a lot of really uncomfortable situations. Without spoiling anything, it's really all I can say about it. But seeing these two men being completely different yet being very similar at the same time was really compelling. And check it out because he gives a phenomenal performance. It doesn't touch what Hugh Jackman does in the movie. He is by far the standout in that movie. But Jake Gyllenhaal is still a very powerful performance from him. So great to see him branching out and doing a movie like this. I think this is going to work for him, and hopefully this can get him into more action-oriented roles, because this is going to get him the attention of a lot of people. I have a feeling this has Oscar bait written all over it. So this will probably be a fall-winter release movie. It'll be November, December time. But I don't know when. It won't be this year. Probably won't be 2015. They'll probably push it to 2016 or 2017. So still got a few years left to wait for it, but the talent that's involved so far, I'm really looking forward to this project. I think it's got a lot of promise. Well, that'll do it for me today on Coming Soon Movie News with Nicholson. You guys can click the subscribe button down here at the bottom of the screen, and also don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Nicholson, Niklsun, to get all your movie updates. I will be tweeting at any time that something does come out, and then I also will be covering most of that information on the show the following day. So don't forget to subscribe, and also don't forget to follow me on Twitter. My name is Nicholson. You guys have been great, and you enjoy your day. Take care.